Welcome to the DoubleACS Daily News for January 17th, 2017. Yesterday and over the weekend, many in the Attleboro community took time to remember the life and contributions of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On Saturday, the nonprofit On Common Ground and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Committee of Greater Attleboro hosted a ceremony at the Salatte Shrine. The main speaker was illustrator and author Joel Gill. We spoke with him after the event.
I am the author of Strange Fruit, Uncelebrated Narratives from Black History, and Tales of the Talented Tenth, the most recent of which is Bessie Stringfield, and I'm here speaking at the Dr. King Memorial Day celebration. I think one of the most important things to remember about Dr. King's legacy is that Dr. King was fighting for an understanding that people are people, and that we in America have separated ourselves into different tribes and sort of nationalities, and we've separated ourselves a bit, but Dr. King's idea was that we were more than just the disparate parts of those things, that we were one unified people. I started drawing comics, and I ran across the story of Henry Box Brown, who was a slave who mailed himself in a box from Virginia to Philadelphia, and this story was not well known, so I thought I should tell this story. And so I started telling those stories, and the more I told them, the more people started to pay attention, until a publisher came to me and said, we should put these all together in a book. My stories are about obscure Black history. And so the stories of Strange Fruit and Tales of the Talented Tenth was to show people that there are other stories outside of the mainstream of what Black history is that are just as important, showing people what Dr. King was talking about when he was saying that all men are created equal, that these people, these stories are equal, and then we can connect to one another. The word racism is dead, because people have used that word so much that when some people think about it, or when you tell somebody that they're doing something that's racist, or saying that something that's racism, they don't necessarily see it. They see it as something that happened a long time ago with lynchings or with slavery or with segregation. They don't see the small, subtle things that are involved. It's almost like when you say racist to somebody, they build up a wall. And so what I am arguing is that as opposed to saying racist, you say that lacks empathy. You are no longer able to see from the other person's point of view. And if you can do that, and you can get through to that person and get past that wall that they put up with the racism, then you'll have a much better conversation. What Martin Luther King and others like him, like Harvey Milk and Cesar Chavez, and any type of people that protest, demonstrate what America is really about, because that's one of our defining characteristics, is the protest. And it would be amazing if people would sort of honor that understanding that civil unrest and civil disobedience was something that was used to evoke social change.
Yesterday, the city held a ceremony in honor of Dr. King at City Hall, followed by an interfaith ceremony at the John Wesley AME Church in North Attleboro. Their speaker, Ron Jones of the organization Dialogue on Diversity, said that Dr. King's vision went further than gaining civil rights for African Americans.
By the time he'd given his I Have a Dream speech in 1963, his head was already starting to change. In 1964, Lyndon Johnson started his war on poverty. And that, in conjunction with Martin Luther King's own shifting evolution of thought, began to move him more towards looking at civil rights as a much larger matrix, rather. Although Black people made up 10% of the total population, poor people in America made up 25% of the total population of the country. So automatically, by looking at that number, you basically become an advocate for a far more significant group that includes most of your own. The idea was that even though white folks had the power of vote in general, poor white folks may have had it, but they had little else. And some of them didn't even have that. And so by trying to twist that, or make that pivot to a bigger group, what Martin did was he began to mine out a new kind of advocacy.
That's it for today's update. You can watch all of our content in high definition on our website, DoubleACS.com, and on the DoubleACS mobile app for iOS and Android devices. For DoubleACS News, I'm Austin Ricketts.